It was a balmy summer evening when my friends and I decided to take a break from our usual haunts and go exploring in a part of town we had never ventured before. We were looking for something new, something exciting, something that would give us a good scare. Little did we know just how successful our quest would turn out to be. As we walked down the overgrown path leading up to the dilapidated factory looming ahead, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease that began to settle in my gut. The air seemed heavy and oppressive, suffused with a sense of impending dread that made me want to turn back. My companions didn't notice, though. They were too enamored by the promise of adventure waiting inside those rusty metal gates. But even as we cautiously approached the entrance, peering through gaps in the boarded-up windows, I knew something wasn't quite right. The darkness inside the factory seemed to pulse with malevolent energy, as if warning us away. Despite the hairs standing tall on the back of my neck, however, we pushed forward into the abyss. At first, the interior of the factory appeared nothing remarkable than any other derelict space. Dimly lit halls populated by rusted machinery, peeling paint and musty smells. But soon enough, things took a marked shift towards the macabre. We heard strange noises echoing throughout the winding corridors, whispers carried on the wind, footsteps on creaking floorboards. And then we saw them. Phantoms danced around corners, their forms indistinct, hazy and twisted. They vanished whenever we turned to confront them. But they left us reeling nonetheless. We clung together tightly, afraid for what lay ahead. What manner of cursed place had we invaded? We reached rooms full of crude operating tables, instruments scattered and discolored, half-finished procedures etched onto chalkboards, and medical notes left strewn across workbenches like some grisly recipe book. Suddenly, it became clear. This wasn't merely a forgotten dump. It was something much worse indeed. We discovered the truth behind the terrified whispers emanating from deep within the bowels of the factory. With trepidation mounting with every step, we descended downward into the gloom, until we arrived at a door sealed shut with heavy bolts and chains. Pulling ourselves closer, we strained to hear the muffled voices crying out from beyond. Our hearts sank at the sounds of agony and pleading. These weren't simply random cries of fear, but distinct words forming sentences, begging to be freed from captivity. Somehow, we each felt these prisoners held secrets vital to solving whatever satanic scheme was unfolding here. And so, without hesitation, we pooled our strength to bust open the portal, hoping against hope that our actions wouldn't bring harm upon us all. Slowly but surely, the barrier splintered apart under our combined efforts, revealing a nightmarish scene that could scar one's sanity itself. 4 individuals, adorned with grotesque physical mutations, clawed at their makeshift prison bars, eager to taste freedom again. Worse yet, pus oozed from gaping surgical wounds all over their bodies, and milky eyes staring back at us from sunken faces told stories of prolonged suffering, unlike any normal mortal should endure. It immediately struck me how young these unfortunate souls seemed too. Children amongst the rest. No doubt unwitting victims taken advantage of during vulnerable times, perhaps even kidnapped off the streets themselves. Tears streamed down all our faces, collectively witnessing such appalling mistreatment and rage built within us at having to bear witness to such cruelty perpetuated in the name of science gone wrong. No force on earth could describe what went through our minds seeing innocents brutalized so callously, transformed into living weapons or test subjects. Without delay, we helped free the tortured quartet and escorted them safely outside where paramedics awaited to attend their injuries. During the process, details about their captivity finally spilled forth in increments between whispering back and forth. "This ends now," she snarled, brandishing the blade. "You lot have caused more than enough pain already." Taken aback by her sudden boldness, the technicians stumbled backwards, clearly unsure how to respond. But their leader emerged from the group, stepping forward calmly. He addressed Dr. Martinez directly, voice dripping with condescension. "Ah, Mina, how touching. So devoted to your work you are willing to brave death for its sake. But you can't save them this time. You and your little charges will pay dearly for exposing our enterprise and interfering with destiny's course." The rest of us flinched at his brazen declaration of hubris. But Dr. Martinez remained stone, faced her expression conveying a hidden determination. "I won't let you continue victimizing innocents, tampering with life's essences, using human beings as lab rats in pursuit of impossible ideals. That's not progress, but rather regression, an affront to all humane values. By what authority dare you play God?" Incredibly, the lead figure actually allowed himself a small laugh at Mina's challenge. "Authority? Huh. I am far above such petty titles. Knowledge is power, and through careful cultivation, I shall elevate myself to transcendent heights. Even if it means discarding weak links along the way. Your presence has been most inconvenient, Doctor. Goodbye and farewell to your associates. 2. Time for a purification ritual to cleanse our world of the unworthy." Before anyone realized what happened next, he whipped out a detonator box attached to his belt, aiming it squarely at our group. His finger quivered on the button, ready to initiate self-destruction for everyone present. Everyone froze, hopeless despair swallowing them whole, wondering who might survive this gruesome standoff. While some screamed louder than others, echoes resounding through the empty warehouse, none dared protest too loudly for fear of further retribution. The terrorist mastermind watched patiently, gauging reactions, before finally speaking up once more, voice cool and collected despite the madness playing out below. "Excellent. Exactly as planned." Each of those misguided souls volunteered themselves readily enough when promised the stars. They only needed direction towards true enlightenment, ones easily corrupted by false virtues peddling illusionary salvation. Those seeking divine aid often succumb to wolves in sheep's clothing. Forgive me for not informing them sooner. Greed tends to blind us to the path ahead, Cloud Judgment. Notwithstanding today marks history, a new dawn arises for mankind. Age of knowledge reignited, illuminated for eternity. Oh yes, my loyal comrades, we must leave no trace. After tonight, only ash remains. As the terrorist's finger hovered over the detonator, The atmosphere became suffocatingly tense. Fear gripped each of us, rendering us powerless against the impending destruction. Time seemed to stretch, the seconds ticking away like torturous heartbeats. But just as hope dwindled to its last ember, a sudden crash shattered the stillness. Startled, we turned our heads to see a figure emerging from the shadows, wielding a metal pipe. It was the paramedic who had been attending to the freed captives. With a burst of determination, he swung the pipe, knocking the detonator from the terrorist's hand. The detonator clattered to the ground, its threat neutralized, and chaos erupted. The terrorist lunged at the paramedic, grappling for control of the pipe. They wrestled with desperate intensity, their struggle reflecting the battle between good and evil unfolding before us. Meanwhile, Dr. Martinez seized the opportunity to rally us. "We can't let this madman succeed," she cried, her voice filled with renewed vigor. "Together we can overpower them." Gathering our wits, we joined the fray, fighting alongside the paramedic and doctor. Martinez. It was a fierce struggle, the clanging of metal against metal, grunts of effort, and cries of defiance echoing through the warehouse. Each of us tapped into an inner reserve of strength we never knew we possessed, fueled by the need to protect the innocent and put an end to this madness. Finally, with a collective surge, we overpowered the terrorist and his minions. They were subdued, their reign of terror coming to an abrupt halt. Exhausted but triumphant, we caught our breath and surveyed the scene. The nightmare that had unfolded before us had left its mark. But we were alive, and justice had prevailed. As the authorities arrived to take the terrorists into custody, we stood together, battered and shaken but united. The rescued captives were treated for their injuries, and a sense of relief washed over us. We had not only survived, but had put an end to the horrors that had plagued the factory. In the aftermath, the story of the deranged experimenters and their diabolical plans made headlines. The world learned of the brave souls who had confronted evil and emerged victorious. Dr. Martinez became a symbol of resilience and justice, her unwavering determination inspiring others to stand against the darkness. But for those of us who had experienced the horrors firsthand, the factory would forever haunt our dream. We had seen the depths of human cruelty, but we had also witnessed the strength of unity and the power of compassion. Though scarred, we vowed to carry on, to fight for a world where innocence is protected and the pursuit of knowledge does not come at the cost of humanity. And so, as the sun rose on a new day, we walked away from that dilapidated factory forever changed, but with hope in our hearts. We knew that the horrors we had faced would stay with us, but they would also serve as a reminder of the strength we possessed and the darkness we had overcome. For just $3 a month, you can have your name featured in my YouTube videos and descriptions. Not only will you be supporting my channel, but you'll also be immortalized in the credits of my content. If you're looking for something a bit more personalized, consider becoming a $25 a month patron. I'll voice your stories and bring them to life on my channel. Create a special drawing just for you, or even write a unique story tailored to your interests. So don't hesitate. Join my Patreon community today and help me keep the spooky stories coming. And remember, together we can save each other from the YouTube algorithm. Thank you for your support.